Hi everybody, my name is David Gardner. The artist that I was chosen to research was Stephen Shore. He was born in 1947 in New York City, New York. He began his career as a teenager by reaching out to Andy Warhol to photograph his studio. He had received a call about a month later and began to spend countless hours at the factory photographing Warhol and other artists, kind of like in their raw, experimental ways. As you can see right here, like it looks like a pretty grungy environment, super creative, just a bunch of different artists kind of collaborating together and just coming together. And this is where he began to develop a reputation as an artist and photographer. Um, Through this process, he's began to gain a lot of trust of Warhol to document work and events at the factory and their artistic circles as they worked and relaxed. And it's really cool just to see all these black and white images and just kind of the vibe that would have kind of took place at the factory and just all these super talented creative artists in this super grungy environment, and just to see where it all started and kind of how it developed throughout the rest of their careers. In 1968, Shore set off to become an independent photographer and kind of to self-teach himself a little bit more to avoid stagnation. And in 1971, he created the All Meat You Can Eat exhibit. This exhibit was extremely important because this is when Stephen Shore really began to introduce color photography into his work, leaving behind the polished conceptual composition for that would reflect more on culture. And then in 1972, Shore set off to travel across America on a road trip and began to photograph American surfaces. This particular exhibit and road trip required 100 rolls of film and a roll light camera. The main purpose was kind of to photograph his entire trip kind of in its raw format, just kind of what he saw with his perceptual vision. This sequence of photos consists of hundreds of photos that were taken on a road trip from New York to Texas. It is considered one of the most famous photo series of all time. All the images were taken in raw format and unaestheticized. This style of photography was unique to a time period that placed a lot of emphasis on sharp composition and decisive moments. He called these photos a screenshot of my field of vision, which is really cool because we get to kind of visualize that entire road trip in its really raw format. I know I've said it a few times, but like we really get to gather a lot of information, especially in 2022, like what the time period was like back then, like whether it's going to the drive-in theater or if you're going to make a phone call or buy cigarettes out of a vending machine. We just get to kind of visualize all that. And due to taking all these images, there's really no detail that was kind of left untied. So if you really get to look through that um, exhibit or series, you really get to gather a lot of kind of the visual elements that America was founded upon. And it was really important because it captured the raw spirit of American culture. And me particularly, I love the retro vintage atmosphere, and this particular series really just kind of like gives me a lot of inspiration when it comes to designing stuff. In 1973, he created his best known series of Uncommon Places. The sequence differs from American Surfaces due to having a lot more thought placed on the composition of the image in particular, using like the rule of thirds and stuff like that, visual balance. Um, Shore began to explore composition and color in a more constructive way. He was able to create more interest in mundane environments and able to create a story out of impossible settings, which I think is really cool. I think he took a big step in another direction, which is important as an artist to not just lay dormant, and kind of like his early career, he didn't want to stagnate. So I almost look at this as kind of a sequel to American Surfaces in a very constructive way. It's really cool to kind of see his ability to gain interest out of things that wouldn't exactly catch your eye if you were just on a road trip, like just the different colors, compositions, textures. Like the bottom middle image, you just get to see all those different visual textures. You get to see depth, and then just like you said, the composition that he began to explore with the walkway. It kind of guides you into the image, and it's just really cool to kind of see um, every different sequence and series that he did, and just like the different directions that he take, and especially in this class, we've just kind of had a bunch of different projects, which really pushes the limit on our way to explore different ways that photos can be taken to gather interest and build series that wouldn't particularly come straight to mind. In 1975, Shore and 10 other photographers made the exhibit New Topographies. It was a change and evolution of landscape photography. It was a photographic series documented the suburbanized world of combined natural and man-made objects, basically providing interest and purpose to landscapes that would otherwise be looked over. So kind of just visual balance of mechanical structure and then natural. You can see in these images, you have the mountains in the background, you have cars and animals and structures. So kind of a combined sequence of events, and it was really cool that 10 other photographers kind of joined and created an exhibit that kind of featured a different pathway of landscape photography. These are two of Shore's images from that, but I really recommend people to kind of go look at the rest of those images. But yeah, these are my sources, and hope you guys learned as much as I did.